speaker and facilitator, who is our big guy in data. We call him Paul Dakum. Paul Dakum is our AI and data leader, and he will be putting us through how data is the oil. The data is a new oil. Yeah, so for Dakum is a seasoned data professional with over 15 years of expertise in the field. His extensive experience spans multiple sectors, including healthcare, research, education, and agriculture. It has consistently demonstrated a commitment to leveraging data-driven solutions for complex business challenges. Currently, Mr. Dakom serves as the head of data at MyAgro, and an innovative agricultural technology company that enables smallholders farmers to incrementally save for agricultural products and services. And additionally, he holds a partnership position at Thrive Consulting, where he contributes to the firm's strategic offerings in revenue growth, sales optimization, and go-to-market strategy development. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Paul Dakum.
Thank you very much, Anita, and hello, everyone. It's great to be here. I just want to confirm that you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Good afternoon, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I have a very limited amount of time. So the first thing I would want to do is apologize, because I'm going to be speeding through a lot of important information. I assume that everyone is going to get access to these slides, so you can take time to go through them in detail. I want to make sure that I leave enough room at the end of my 20 minutes for any questions or comments that could arise. So without further ado, let me just share my screen. All right, I believe we can all see my screen. Please give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Great, thank you very much. Again, thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to be here. We've gone through my bio. I've enjoyed every year of my a little over 15 years. It has been an exciting challenge at every step of the way. So let us jump right in. The first two speakers have done an amazing job to show you on, first of all, the advancements in AI and all of the cool things that are happening, as well as how you can actually implement it without writing a lot of code. So we know that AI, data is no longer just bookkeeping or record keeping or documentation of receipts, but it's actually very strategic to business operations. It has become a critical asset when a business or an organization is listing out their assets. Data is or should be one of these assets. We have seen what generative AI can do, the value that it can add, the personalization and optimization that it can add to different businesses. And there are a few key things that if you don't get much out of this session, some of the key things that you should remember is that you cannot improve what you don't measure. If you're not measuring it, you cannot improve it. And if you're not collecting it, you cannot measure it. So you have to collect it. So what we're going to do in this session in the next 10 to 12 minutes is go through what you need to do as an organization to get yourself ready, to get your organization ready to start that journey, or to move from one stage of that journey to another of this data journey that you're at. Yes, there is a whole buzz about AI and machine learning and data science and advanced analytics. But what do you need to do as an organization to start capitalizing on this? There are founders in this session. There are co-founders. There are data aficionados. There are people that are interested in data. There are people that are not even in the data field. But what can you do in order to get your organization on the right path, in order to capitalize on the data that you have or the potential data that you could have? So one of the very first things that you want to be able to do is to understand where you're at as an organization. There will be a framework that I'll talk about in a bit, but one of the things that you want to understand is, in terms of data collection, where are we at as an organization? Data collection is the very first step. If you want your organization to be able to harness data, well, you have to start collecting it. And it goes beyond, oh, how many subscriptions did we sell? How many products did we sell? How many customers do we have? But we need to expand the type of data that you collect. Things like customer interactions, data from your sales team, from your customer service team, from the reviews of your app on the App Store, internal operational metrics, how much you are spending on different things, external market signals, how depending on the business that you're in, there is it could be weather data, it could be social political data. There's a lot of data that is out there that if you include into what it is that you're collecting, you will enrich your data to be able to do more for you. You want to be able to find the blind spots in your data, and we will talk a little bit about that when we get to the framework. What you want to do is to ensure that this data that you're collecting is of high standard. It is high quality, and you have a standardized way of collecting that data. You want to make sure that whatever data you are dealing with, you are able to validate that it is correct, that it is complete, that it is accurate. You're not just haphazardly collecting data from different tools. You know, one department is using Google Sheets, another one is using CRMX, another one is collecting receipts, another one is keeping PDFs. All of that needs to be harmonized, which is that last point. You should have a single source of truth for the data that you're collecting. Now, there are different avenues that you could collect data. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Internet of Things. Different either hardware or software that you have is generating a treasure trove of data, and you want to be able to harness that data. You know, it could be a physical device that you are selling that can generate some data. It could be a platform that you have that has a lot of either data or metadata that you can use to enrich the data that you already have. There are automated data collection tools. There's data streaming capabilities for your apps. If, for example, you have an app, you're a founder for an app, and there's a lot of users and they're doing a lot of things. That data can be streamed into a data warehouse. It can be cleaned, and you can get real-time insights on what people are doing on your platform. But you need to have this strategy in place. You need to be able to organize the data in a way that it can make sense, that you can get some insight from it. So that is about the data itself. Now, the data is going to sit somewhere. You need to make sure that the architecture for your data is sound. You need to look at the different storage solutions that are out there to understand, for the scale that you are, in the domain that you are, what makes sense for you. There are some businesses that they are at the level where they just need to get the process in place. And so a Google Sheet will work for them to start, but rarely would a Google Sheet work forever for you. I'm sure a lot of you have met the limitations of a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet, but you have to make sure that you pay attention to the architecture in which your data is going to sit. Data will be coming from different sources. You want to make sure that there's compatibility with all of that data, that they can all be pooled or pipelined into one data lake, data warehouse, whatever you want to call it. You want to know when you would use cloud computing or more advanced edge computing, and you want to have good data governance in place. Like I said, I'm speeding through this, but there'll be a section where I will slow down a little bit and talk about how you can actually go about implementing some of these things. Data governance is basically just a series of processes, procedures, and standards that you put in place to ensure that your data is well managed, there is visibility across the organization or democratization, and it is secured. from privacy guidelines to security frameworks to ethical use guidelines. One thing that you should keep in mind is that because data cuts across different sectors or different domains, the exact implementation might be different for your organization. So you might see an implementation either for architecture or for data collection from company A, and you don't want to make the mistake of assuming that that exact implementation is going to work for you. You have to know the implementation that works for you, but some things are standard. You want to have strong security. You want to make sure that wherever your business is located, that you're paying attention to the privacy regulations of that region, and you want to make sure that you're using good ethical guidelines. Like Sandipar mentioned in his session, the ethics of data is still something that is being understood as at where we are. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to do anything about it. You can add your own voice into better understanding ethically sound ways of working, using, and storing data. You want to also be able to analyze and get insights from your data. Where are you in terms of your data maturity? And that will come in the framework, in the roadmap or the framework that I will mention. But in terms of data as an organization, as a founder, or as a team member, where do you think you are in terms of your data? Are you descriptive, predictive, or prescriptive? Descriptive is where I've seen a lot of organizations get comfortable, where they're able to collect data, they are able to transform that data and visualize it. But a lot of what that data shows is just a description of what they have. How many this, which amount of that, what's the volume of this? And it just basically describes the data that you have. How do you go from descriptive to predictive, where you are now using the historical data that you've collected and say, based on what has happened, this is what is likely to happen. So you are now predicting what could potentially happen based on what has already happened. And then prescriptive is, well, this is what is going to happen. Do we want it to happen? These are the things we need to do to ensure that it happens. Do we not want it to happen? This is what we need to do in order to prevent that. So you're now prescribing, using analytics to prescribe a way forward for a business. We have things like machine learning, AI integrations. Like I said, I'll speed a little bit through some of these things. Decision-making ecosystem is the bedrock of, or the one of the main uses of data is to aid in decision-making. That is what in some you want to make sure that you are in a better position to make decisions. That means the time to decision making needs to be as small as possible. And that is where your data structures, either the team, the processes you have in place, will come in handy. You want to make sure that from when it's expected to when it is to make a decision is as short a time as possible. Utilization of data.
Hi, Paul. Hello, Paul.
Can you hear me?
Your network seems to be going in and out. So maybe you take a
Oh,
break.
I'm so sorry.
Continue. No, it's fine. Maybe take like
can you
10 seconds.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I cannot control that as of now. But okay,
Yeah,
for that 10 seconds, anyone have any questions or comments? If you're all good, give me a thumbs up.
Perfect. I think you can start now. Your network is good.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, I was talking about democratization of data across the organization. You want to make sure that everyone has access to data, they have access to insights, and it's not locked up in some department. There's a thing called data silos. We want to avoid that, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the next few slides. diagnostic tools and methodology, comprehensive data maturity assessment questionnaire. There are a lot of platforms. Dakum is one of them that provides you free data maturity assessment. In the resources at the end of these slides, you have access to that, where it will let you know as an organization through a series of questions, as an organization, where are we in terms of data maturity? Are we very at the beginning? Have we not even gotten to the beginning? Are we very advanced and we should pat ourselves on the back and start working at the frontier of data science and AI? These kinds of questionnaires will not only help you know where you are, but give you the tools that you need to move from where you are to the next step. You also want to use the industry that you're in to understand how it is that you're doing. As founders, you're going to be networking with a lot of other of your peers, and you want to learn from them and exchange ideas and understand how they are doing. Are there any practices that they have that is helping them a lot? I think I mentioned gap analysis methodology. Understand what it is that you are not currently doing and how you can take advantage of doing that. A customized data maturity scoring system. I mentioned that different industries operate differently. And so maybe there is a maturity test that one organization is using for themselves. You don't want to get a direct copy of that and say, this is what I'm going to be implementing. You have to understand how your business operates and then score yourself based on that. Moving on to transforming data into strategic competitive advantage. Now that you have the data that you need to collect, you've looked at the architecture in which that data is going to sit. How do you turn that into an asset? One of the very first things is, in fact, turning data into an asset. Cultural transformation. It's not just a data team's problem or a data team's business. Data should be part and parcel of the way your organization operates. You need to get not just your tech team or your data team or your marketing team. You need to get your organization to get into the habit of asking, what does the data say? Because the more people are using data, the better your data is going to become, because more people are seeing the value of that data. It's not just going to be a technical resource where, yes, we're using it in order for funders, which of course it is important, but you want it to be a strategy enabler. You want, high-level discussions to include dashboards, to include trends, to include data, such that it becomes part of how your organization operates and not just something sitting in the corner for when you need it. You need leadership commitment. If this is the second important thing, that as an organization, if you want to flourish in terms of data, the leadership has to be on board. You need unwavering leadership commitment when it comes to data-driven decision making. They have to be on board, and they will to drive that cultural change when it comes to data. You want to break down organizational silos. A lot of organizations have rich data, but sitting in different silos, in different buckets, hidden away in different teams, and they are not talking to each other. You have to find ways to break that down and then start using your data to make money, because from your data, you can find different avenues, different streams, revenue streams in which you can branch out to. Different organizations have different products that they're selling based on the data that you're collecting. It might be sales data, it might be review data, it might be customer service data, but you identify, oh, a lot of people are asking for this, or we suspect that this feature or this tool will be a good expansion. It is from the data that you understand these things. And there are a lot of organizations that not only have they used data to to branch out into other aspects of their business, but they're actually even selling that data. Again, when you start talking about selling data, you have to make sure that your ethics are in line and your security and all of that. But you can also use data to become an industry expert. There's different businesses. You see, there's a small trend going on now where a lot of businesses are releasing, reports on how things are going. I saw a very interesting report called "The Price of Making Stew," and it was released by an organization called Price Pally. But they have a lot of data on the prices of goods in the market, and they have seen how that price has changed, and they have used that to create reports. Now they are on their way to becoming industry experts, and they are using their data to push their name and their brand forward. Okay, this is what I was trying to talk at. Now, you have heard a lot about the data, about the architecture, about what you should do, what you should not do. How do you get started? And I'll be brief with this. The first thing you want to do is to understand where you are at. As an organization, no matter how you feel, oh, it's too late, or we're too disorganized, or there's not much we can do, you can get started regardless of what stage you're in. Whether you don't have a single database, whether all you have are 3 to 5 to 30 Excel spreadsheets scattered across the organization, you can get started. But the first thing you need to do is to understand where you are. Do a comprehensive organizational data audit across your organization. What data do they produce? What data do they consume? What metrics are of importance to them? What are their success metrics? And then list all of them down and know, okay, so this is the data that we currently have. This is the data that is important, but we do not have. You need to put all of those things down, right? No matter how obvious it might seem in your head, detail it down into an audit and say, this is where my organization stands currently in terms of data. Evaluate your infrastructure. Don't be ashamed and say, I don't want to expose myself. Let people not see that this is the rickety system that is supporting everything that I have. Do it internal, but evaluate your current infrastructure. I can see some people laughing. That means they know what I'm talking about. You have to make sure that you know what it is that you are using to collect your data. In that way, you can identify where the gaps are. You can now look and say, okay, it seems like these metrics are important, but we're not actually collecting the data that would help us move them forward, or we're not actually even calculating these metrics. These are the gaps. Identify the gaps in your data and know them, and then start doing a preliminary investment into what do we need to do in order to get ourselves from where we are to where we want to be. If you are in Excel or in Google Sheets, what is that very next step? Maybe you have graduated from that and you're in AWS or you're in GPC. Okay, what's the next level from that? That is where you start looking at your infrastructure. So you have looked at, this is the current data that I have. This is what is important to me. You are now looking at, this is the infrastructure that I'm going to need in order to get to where I need to be. Don't be afraid of modernizing your data architecture. We'll get to the part about change management, because there's a lot of people that Excel has their hooks in them and they are not even trying to let go. But we'll talk about that. You want to make sure that you have a robust data governance framework in place. That sounds like a big word or a big phrase, but don't let it scare you. It's simply just the processes that you have put in place to make sure that your data is of high quality. It is consistent. The example I will always use for data consistency is day, month, year, and month, day, year. Database A that is being held by the salespeople starts with the month and the day and the year, while database B that is held by the finance people is going by the day and then the month and then the year. And so you cannot tell the difference between January 6th and June 1st in the database. That is just one example of why you need consistency across your data, across your organization. Now, the previous speaker mentioned that some people feel like they need to get to a certain level before they can start implementing AI and start doing all of the cool things let me just break it down to you. The data that you have is already useful. As long as you make sure that you are collecting it correctly, you can already start doing it. You can start, he said, test quick and don't be afraid to fail. I'm paraphrasing, but I can't remember exactly. Start doing pilot projects and learn from them immediately and quickly and improve. And as you are increasing or enriching your data, you are improving your machine learning and AI capabilities. You have small pilot projects and A/B tests that are ongoing here and there. You are already implementing AI and data science in your organization, even inside that your Excel or Google Sheet database, quote unquote. Then you can start advancing into scaling up and incorporating generative AI. The example about using an AI agent to take orders and to collect orders. Well, if you don't have your menu in a database, that AI agent is not going to have somewhere to reference. And so that's why all of this foundational work is very important, so that when it comes to scale, you already have that data mindset. You don't just start and then move to the most advanced AI. It's not yet even a culture in your organization. You need people it should be inside their hearts. This is just the way this organization operates. We collect data, we double check it, we make sure that it is of high quality, we make sure that it is accurate. That is just how we operate across teams, not just in the tech team or in the product team, in engineering, across teams from finance to sales to marketing to audits, everywhere. Data quality should be the standard, and it will enable you to easily scale to more advanced, more big game AI and analytics. You have to be agile in the way that you do your work. You don't want to have a quick win and then pat yourselves on the back and say, we deserve a 3-month holiday because we did this small pilot and it was semi-successful. No, you learn from it, you optimize, and then you redeploy. And then you assess, you learn from it, you optimize, you redeploy. And it's that iteration that gets you better. Like I mentioned earlier, you need unwavering leadership commitment. I've worked in organizations where there was no leadership backing and there was leadership backing. Two different organizations, and the difference is very clear. When it is your boss that is asking you, what does the data say? You amongst yourself, before you take that report to him or before you lay that complaint to him, you will ask yourself, what does the data say? That is the kind of trickle-down approach that leadership commitment brings in terms of data. So with all of this that has been said, what are some of the obstacles that you can face when you start attempting to get your organization on this path to incorporating data science and AI? Legacy system constraints. A lot of organizations, they are tied to it's a shaking table, but the table is supporting the organization, and nobody wants to even attempt to change it. That is a big challenge where, there's 7 different systems or 8 different systems that have been coupled together over the span of 3 to 5 years, and nobody has the time or the knowledge, or the organization doesn't have the resources to start changing it. It is a big obstacle. And then technological integration complexities. In our part of the world, there's a lot of manual systems in place. It can be challenging to incorporate new technologies into this. So that is a challenge that you can face. And obviously scalability limitations, like I mentioned with Google Sheets. Before you know it, you have maxed out the number of rows, and before you know it, you have 3 to 5 separate Google Sheets collecting the same information. Organizational barriers, cultural resistance to change. People don't want to change. Once they get used to a way of doing things, they continue in that way because, after all, it is working. Why change the system when it is working? But that system can be better. And then there's a lot of skills gaps. I don't want to shake any tables here with 3 to 6 months data boot camps, and then suddenly senior data analyst. But there can be skills gaps where people know about the technology, but they don't have the people or the skills to get it done. Departmental silos, like I mentioned, data exists, but it's locked up inside different teams or organizations. Regulatory and ethical considerations, we've spoken about that. How do we mitigate some of these obstacles? What strategies can we put in place? I mentioned earlier, start with pilot projects. You want to do something small and quick, incremental implementation. Show that it is possible to do. And in that way, you build your organization's confidence in the fact that, yes, no, we are an AI-driven organization. We're data-driven, and we use data to inform our decisions. People will be more confident. You within your organization will be more confident. A lot of change management needs to go into place. How you communicate, leadership role modeling, incentive alignment, and then robust governance. Ethical guidelines, continuous monitoring, transparency in AI practices. Okay, so in conclusion, I'm pretty sure I took more time than I had. But in conclusion, data is dynamic. It is a strategic asset. The sooner you pay attention to it, no matter what stage of an organization you are, the sooner you pay attention to it, the better it is for you almost immediately and also down the line. In order to be AI ready, you need a holistic and strategic approach. You need to be able to scope it all out, but then start small. And continuous evolution is the key to success. So the very first thing you need to do right now as an organization is to take that maturity assessment. You can either go to data.org or datacamp.com, and you will find data maturity assessments there, and you'll be able to understand where you are as an organization. But you also need a strategy. So when you find out where you are, you need a strategy to be able to chart where it is that you want to go, and then you need to invest in people, processes, and technology. It doesn't come free. You can start free, but the bigger you get, the more you want to be able to capitalize, more resources it's going to need. Okay, thank you very much. I know I sped through it a lot, but I hope you were able to learn one or two things from that. I don't know if we have any time for questions, David. Or